Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Grue Room. Today for the Grue Room, we got a pro wrestler, bodybuilder, act, actress, and model. Her name is Karma Dean, and over the weekend, she became a women's champion. And we're going to talk about her win, her championship win, and her life involved with pro wrestling and bodybuilding. And I am Rocco Cross. I am the host of Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Room, and our interview with the women's champ is coming up next. Okay, welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show. I don't Is it night where you're at? Day?
Yeah, this evening. Yep, it sure is.
Okay, all
It
right.
sure is.
So I I want to say congrats on winning the women's championship. So what's the wrestling league that you won the title at?
It is BGW, known as Battleground Wrestling, based out of West Virginia, run by General Lee Jordan.
Sweet. And who did you beat for the title?
I defeated Colby Max. She was the women's title holder at the time, and I defeated her to become the new champion.
Awesome. The new women's champion, and you're ready to put your title on the line against any new challengers or anyone you faced
Oh,
before?
I welcome anyone, on the roster or off the roster that wants to come, and take a chance of challenging me for this belt. It fits really snug on my shoulder. It's really comfortable where it is, and I think it looks good. I think the
It
colors
definitely
go
does.
well. Yeah, my gear is purple, so I mean, it blends well. So I plan on keeping this accessory right here for a really long time.
I
So
love it.
I don't have any plans for any of challengers in the future. I do have an upcoming match at the same promotion on August
Mhm.
21st against one of Colby's friends in the ring,
Uh-oh.
apparently. So yeah, so apparently we're gonna go at it, and it's gonna be a good time. I think she's pretty angry at the fact that I defeated her friends, so I think she wants to take a shot at me. So we'll see how it goes for her.
All right, nice. And I've been watching like all the different wrestling leagues from NWA Power to Impact and AEW, and Mickey James is starting a women's wrestling show. And
Yes.
you might any any ideas, like, are you planning on getting involved with that? Did Mickey ask you, or you contact her or anything?
I have not spoken to her yet, but I did hear that she was starting, that women's promotion. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited because I've admired Mickey James for a very long time. I actually love her work. I love her in-ring work. And as a person, I follow her on Instagram. She's just a really good person.
Yeah.
And I would love to get to know her and just, talk to her about the business and just get to know her on a personal level. So I would love if I ever had the opportunity to be involved with it and to get to know her, because I think I could learn a lot from her. And I think she could definitely, she could probably teach me a lot of stuff. She's been around
Oh,
the business for a
definitely.
long time. Yeah, she's had many incredible successes in her career. And I would just love to get to know her for sure.
Sweet, nice. Yeah, Mickey's great. I love Mickey. Like, she had classic matches even before she got signed with WWE. Like, I
Hmm.
I remember her when she wasn't known as Mickey James yet, and she did some awesome bouts, like, before WWE, in WWE, after too, and really
Oh,
looking forward to
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see where it goes, because I think now that everything's opened back up and, indie wrestling has really, taken off now, and it's just becoming amazing, and so much support for it too. I
Oh,
think after
definitely.
being, I think after being cooped up, and everybody having to be on lockdown for so long, and just being able to go back out. I was actually at AEW's first show live again in front of an audience, and
Nice.
it was one of those energies that made you like fall in love with wrestling again. It was a different type of energy that you're like, wow, did this ever go away, or it's just been so
I
long
know.
that I forgot what it felt like,
I
So,
know exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you said you were at the first live crowd for AEW, so I have to ask, did you join the crowd and sing Judas?
Of course. you know I think I love seeing the smile on Chris Jericho's face when he comes out, because you could tell like he just loves it when people get involved and start singing his song. He just gets so into it, and you can tell it's such a proud moment for him, and good for him, because you know what, there's a man who I just saw the whole match that he did with Nicolas Cage. Oh my
Oh
God.
God,
There,
that was crazy.
yeah, there isn't anything that Chris wouldn't do for this business.
Yeah.
He's just one of those men that, you just admire him, because he's the definition of what the heart and soul of the business is about. And I admire not only his knowledge, but just his accomplishments and who he is as a person. He's just a great guy. I was on the Jericho cruise, the first one in
Oh,
2018.
nice.
Yeah, I briefly got to talk with him. Nothing crazy. He was all over. He was doing performances, wrestling. So, I mean, he didn't have a moment for himself. He was all over the place. Yeah. And, so I got to briefly talk to him before we boarded. After we were leaving, we were boarding to leave. And, he's just a down to earth, great, humble guy. I'm like, wow, this whole weekend this whole week has been nonstop. And he still just found the time to just smile at people and be
Yes.
kind to people, So it's like, wow, even when I'm sure he was exhausted and probably just wanted to go to lay down and sleep for a week, after that crazy week he had, he still was like, super nice to the fans and just really nice to everyone. So, I mean, what a great guy. He really is a great guy.
Well, Chris is someone like I would love to have on the show, just never happened yet because, every time I contact agents and they're like, oh no, he's too busy, or no,
Sure.
not at this time. But Chris is someone I always wanted on the show because I'm a big horror fan and Chris loves
Mm-hmm.
horror. And I wanted to bring him on the show just to talk about horror movies. But, you know,
Sure.
maybe one day, you never know.
You never know. Yeah, absolutely. His schedule may just open up at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sure at one point it will.
Like when you were growing up as a kid, like who were some workers you really loved watching on television?
I loved Trish Stratus. I loved Lita. Like for me, those two women like evolutionized and revolutionized the meaning of women's wrestling. I remember the first time I saw Trish and I just thought she was absolutely beautiful. I was a young girl, looking at her. I just started getting into fitness. I had
Oh,
done fitness competitions for a little over 12 years. And when I first started, I was kind of looking for some inspiration and women role models I could look up to in the business. And she was one of them because she was just the epitome of health and fitness, and then
yeah,
here she comes out on the stage as a wrestler. And it was like, whoa, she's not only an incredible fitness model, but now she's breaking, barriers and this, the whole evolutionizing of women's wrestling. And Lita, I always loved Lita because she was fearless. Lita
yeah,
always had a
exactly.
fearlessness about her.
Hmm.
Yeah. And she never cared what obstacles came at her. She always seemed to just plow through them with grace and ease. I'm sure it wasn't easy at all the time, but she just made it look so easy. And I think I admired her for that because she gave me a lot of strength in a lot of times where I needed it. So, growing up, I mean, of course, I watched, it was like Hulk Hogan, and of
Yeah, of
course
course.
Stone Cold, all the greats, The Undertaker, all the greats. But the two women that always stand out to me would be Trish and Lita. And Trish is still very active with a lot of things. I mean, she's big with a lot of the stuff she's
Yeah.
doing as, in women empowerment. I mean, she's always doing something and she never stops. So I admire that too. It's like she never took a break from, being that role model. She's still a role model to so many people.
Oh yeah, definitely she is. And what are some bouts that you loved watching on television, like any like wrestling bout that stood out to you the most, like that made you just go, wow, look at this match.
Oh my goodness. I think most recently, I would say the match between Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida for the women's
Oh my
belt in
God,
AEW.
yes.
That was an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. Because it was like Hikaru Shida, she's been training all her life. I mean, she's
Hmm.
just an enormous talent, incredible at what she does. And Britt Baker, I mean, she's money. She's an incredible talent. She's,
Yes.
fantastic on the mic now. She really, she's a heel, but people love her. The pop she got when she came out that night
Oh, I know.
was, oh my goodness. Yeah, it was incredible. So I think that match, for the most recent one, stand out to me because like it was such an emotional ride with that one, and of course recently watching Chris Jericho with Nicolas Cage. I mean, that's just, I
I
mean, oh
I
my
can't believe
goodness.
he did the match like that. I mean, Chris is still a great worker. He's getting up here in age, and to do a hardcore death match at 50 years old, like
Yes,
I got so
yes,
much respect for him
I
for putting
agree.
his body on the line at his age.
And that's what I mean. He never, like you said, he's getting up there in age, but it's like he never lets anything stop him. It's
Mhm.
like his work ethic is as strong as it was 20 years ago. He's incredible. Yeah. And I mean, Sting is another one that I would say
Oh my God,
he's
yeah.
he's and everybody loves Sting because I mean, face it, Sting's a legend. He's
Yes.
incredible. um when he came out, he also got a huge pop because I mean, it's Sting.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
Sting. But his performance level in the ring is still incredible.
He
you know
still looks
um
great.
he still looks great. I love that he's aligned himself with Darby Allin. I think they're
Yes.
great when they come out together. I
Yes.
love that they work together. I love that so much. So I love these people in the business that they just, I think in their mind, they're going to keep going until, someone says to them, you physically, literally cannot do this anymore. It's a hard no, so, and I know Undertaker, he came to realize that at some
Yeah,
point, because
exactly.
he believe he said, and I forgot where I heard it, but he did, and it might have been Stone Cold's podcast. It might have been on that one where he just, said he realized, hey, I can't do this
Hmm.
anymore, and it was probably the hardest decision he ever had to make, but I'm sure he could look back over the span of his career with a big smile and say, hey, you know what? I did it right up until the last moment I couldn't anymore. And that's,
Exactly.
that's, that's incredible. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, I did pop loud during that tag match when Sting leaped off the stage and did a flying
Mm-hmm.
body press. I was like, "Are you kidding me? A 60-something-year-old man doing a flying
Yeah.
body press
Like
from
we
the
all were like,
stage?"
oh, it was like when you're a kid and you see that magical moment at the circus and and like you stay frozen like that because it's just so incredible. And then and you forget to breathe for a few seconds. I think literally that's the same reaction everybody had because it was like, oh my God, like here he goes again, and yeah, it was great. It was really great. And as performers, we feed off that energy,
Oh,
without the
definitely.
audience, I mean, I give them so much credit. The ones who had to wrestle for that entire year without the
Hmm.
audience. I mean, if you can do that, you can do anything because that's
Oh, yeah.
that's tough. I did live theater for a long time, and there was one night where I don't know what happened, but it was an opening night and nobody showed up to the show.
Oh
It
no.
was and that was, it had never happened before in the 25 years that theater had been in existence. They had never had that happen. So they're like, is it just there's something else maybe going on in town that people are going to? Is it the weather? What is it? So the director said, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go through the show anyway, as if this place was entirely sold out. And we had a full packed out house. And we're all like, and he goes, well, think about it. It's like having a dress rehearsal, if you will. So look at it that way. And he's like, remember, the people up on top deserve the same show as the people sitting in the front.
True. That's true.
So if anything, look at it as a really good practice for, when you are packed out tomorrow night, we'll have a full sold out house. So
Yeah.
I give them credit because I remember that night, it was like, it was hard, it was challenging, but it also taught you that if you can do that, you can do anything, 20,000 people or no people, you can do
Yeah, it's
it.
true.
Yeah.
And like, how did you find out about the wrestling school that QT Marshall, not Marshall, Marshall,
Marshall.
and Mr. Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. Like,
Yes, yes.
how'd you find out about their wrestling school?
I saw an Instagram post that they had been planning to do the camp come that fall.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the school it was an open school at the time, so people could come and train. And then when the pandemic hit, they decided to make it into just camps with just a select amount of people. And so when I saw that Instagram post, I knew that I was going to go there. Like in my mind, there was nothing that was going to stop me from going to that school. So I was living in New York at the time. It was in the midst of the pandemic. And my work was primarily based out of New York City. I was doing TV and film at the time. I was involved in 5 different projects.
Oh, wow.
So unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, those projects, because, they were mostly independent films and they were on the lower end scale, they got pushed from, being sort of in the middle to like way down below, So it was one of those things where it's like, well, when the city reopens, all the big money makers, all the people that had all the big money investments, those are the shows we're going to hopefully get back on the road. And some of those even flopped, because of unfortunately how it happened with the pandemic, and it fell apart. But the shows I have been working on, unfortunately, it was like, there was almost like, you're doing one of these, like, is there even a glimpse or a hope that these shows are ever going to come back to fruition? So I made the decision that, I said, you know what? All my life I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a wrestler my entire life. And I said, you know what? Maybe this is the time now to just close shop here in New York, take a huge leap of faith. The sellers market was hot at the time because everybody was looking to move out of the city and go into Long Island, where I was from. Okay. They want to get away from, the crowds of the city and being cooped up in apartments and move. If they're going to be locked down, they want to be locked down in a house at least, where they can go outside and like be in their yards and whatnot. So it was a hot sellers market for me, but down south, it was a buyer's market. So it actually worked out perfectly the way the timeline went.
Nice.
And I said, I was like, you know what? It's time to close shop. Long Island's all I've ever known my whole life. My mom grew up in the house that I was in. I grew up in the house I was in. So I literally was closing an entire chapter of my life that defined me. Yeah, from the time I was born, literally on a blind leap of faith. Like, hey, I'm going to move down south. I'm going to apply to the school. I'm going to the school and I'm going to become a women's wrestler. And this is what I want. So I started training because I've been training my whole life in fitness, but when you train as a wrestler, it's a whole different ball game. It's nothing you've ever experienced before. So I started training myself a lot harder than I was used to, getting my cardio up and all of that. And my husband said to me, what are you doing? He goes, they don't even know you're alive yet. And I said, they will. And I'm going to the school. So it was one of those things, well, I admire your, he goes, but aren't you? And I said, no, I'm going to manifest this. I want this and I'm putting all my energy into it. So I had applied for their first camp, which was scheduled to start in September. And I hadn't heard back from them. So the second camp was scheduled to start the following January. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, I applied for the first camp. I wasn't accepted. I didn't hear anything back. Do you guys have any room for newcomers for the second camp? Because I'm very interested in coming to the camp. And they gave me a phone interview. They spoke to me and they called me. They were very thorough with the interview. And at the end of the interview, they said, welcome to the Nightmare Factory. So I'll never forget that day because it was one of those things where I hung up the phone and I couldn't tell you how long I just stared at the phone and was just silent. And then I kept looking up at like all the pictures I have of my mom and my family on the wall and I was like, did that really just happen? Am I going? And I'll tell you, I literally had just gotten settled in Florida. Like I was here for maybe 2 months, had just unpacked, settled, got her, and then was like, pack up and go to Georgia for 3 months, So it was like, went from Miss No Adventure to a lot of adventures in a short period of time. So I started the school in January. I got my husband in as well. So we did this together as a couple. Wow. I said to him, I said, listen, you probably are one of the, you're like one of the gurus of wrestling. You know more about wrestling than most people I know. You're also incredibly talented, athletic wise, you have a great persona. You really have it all. Why aren't you doing this with me? And this has been your dream your whole life. I'm here all excited. Like, what about you? He goes, He goes, nah, I said, no. I says, let me call them, I says, back and see if there's any more room. So I called them back and they said, well, you know what? Somebody actually just pulled out today. So we do actually have one seat left.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
It was crazy. So he came with me. Yeah, we packed up. We went to Georgia for 3 months, and that was when the rest of my life began, going to wrestling school.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how was training like there? Because you hear so much about all the trainers there, because it's not only QT and Cody. They got like other guys there. I think Sarge is one of them.
Glacier, WC
Glacier,
yes,
yeah.
WCW's Glacier. He was one of my, I love him. He oh my goodness, what he did for me, I could never, I'm indebted to him forever for it. But we had Dark Orders 5 and 10 as our trainers as well.
Oh,
Preston Vance, yes,
yeah.
and Alan Angels. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We had Baron Black, and we had Lee Johnson.
Oh, wow.
And one of their trainers, Luke Sampson, who had graduated from the school prior to them starting the camps, he was also one of our trainers. Another very incredibly talented coach. But the training, oh my God! I walked in confident because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've been doing fitness competitions and I know what hard work is and training and everything else. And, the first day it's the getting to know you thing. So, you're kind of like, yeah, this is cool. The second week, I'll never forget, I was literally picking up my leg and like getting into bed. And the Airbnb we were at had like one of the most like comfortable, like this woman must have spent like a fortune on this bed. So this was not a bad bed. It was like one of the best beds you could have ever slept in. And I'm like, I remember pulling my leg up and like and I'm like, I said to my husband, I'm like, my exact words, I'm like, I'm going to quit. And he looked at me and he goes, no, you're not. He goes, you came this far. You've done the work. He goes, why would you even say that? And I said to him, I was like, I'm in so much pain right now. I says, I can't even like take a deep breath without my back hurting, from the bumps and the ropes and all that. And he said to me, he goes, if you quit now, he goes, there is no future for you in wrestling. He goes, you have to get through it. Everybody that started in this business was at the same exact point you are right now. Exactly. So he goes, you've been through so much in your life. You've faced things that a lot of people would have crumbled for, and I'll get to that in a second, the car accident I had and whatnot, and how I was told I would never do this again. And
oh my God.
Yeah. So for me, being able to do this, he's like, listen, he goes, you already, you've defeated so much already. Like what, he goes, I promise you, just stick with it. It's going to get easier. And then the following week he's going, oh, I'm going to quit. Like he was like saying the same thing. I'm like, you remember that talk that we had last week? No. Like this is not happening. So, because you know what, when you first start, it's a type of training that your body is completely not used to. And face it, a lot of those moves are very unnatural. You don't go around, taking bumps on the sidewalk every day. There's things you just don't do. So for me, fear was crippling me because of that car accident that I will talk about in a second that I had, because I had broken my neck and my back in the car accident. So for me, it was like I had finally healed, and it took me so long to heal. It was like a fear of, if I bump, am I going to break my neck and back again? Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where I remember Glacier actually took me aside, and he said to me, he says, I want you to think about something. He says, I want you to think back to a time. He says, you told me about a time in your life where you were bullied as a child, he says, and those people really, put you down and made you feel terrible about yourself. So when you take that bump, he says, I want you to imagine that that's those people behind you. He says, and you're kind of, when you hit that mat, he says, you're destroying all of that has happened to you. When he said that, like, it took me a second. I'm like, you know what? He's right, and I'm watching all these other students, because I was probably one of the most inexperienced people in the class. I had never had any training before. Pretty much everyone in the class had some sort of, training or experience or something, just some sort of prior experience related to wrestling. And I was like, I know fitness, I know acting, I know I have the artistic element to be a wrestler, but the wrestling part of it, I need to learn, So once I was able to let go of that fear and stop letting that fear cripple me from doing what I wanted to do, it was like, I was like taking bumps all day and night. Like I said, once that fear was gone, like I just went with it, and I went full throttle with it, and it was incredible. But it definitely, for people who are thinking of going into it and they're like, not sure, hey, it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. But if it's what you really, really want, and it's what's your heart's desire and what your soul was meant to do in this lifetime, hey, you have to stick with it. Once you get over that hurdle, just like anything else in life, it's going to get better, and you're going to get better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And wow, like you were just talking, like you were in a car accident, and now you're the woman's champion. So like definitely you definitely changed the script.
I did. I was sitting at a red light. It was just a regular bright sunny July afternoon, summer day. And I was sitting at a red light, and a young girl, 19 years old, texting and driving,
Of course.
looking down, didn't see that the light was red, didn't see that I was stopped at the light. She hit me doing 60 miles an hour. I had an older SUV. It was a 98 QX4, so it was pretty high up off the ground. And she had an '03 Mustang. So you picture like a higher up vehicle, SUV, and her Mustang was, sloped down in the front. So when she hit me, she literally dive bombed underneath the truck, tore out my gas tank, tore out all the underneath, and sent me airborne. And unfortunately, yeah, when it happened, I did probably the worst thing someone could do when they see an accident happening is I tensed up. So it's like a Charleston chew bar. If it's been in the freezer and it's ice cold and you hit it on the table, it's going to break. If it's warm and limber, and you do that, it's not going to break. So it's kind of what my body did, is it stiffened up. And when she hit me, the impact, I had my seatbelt on, but I still slid forward. I struck the steering wheel and whatnot. I was stunned when it happened. I was like,
yeah, I bet.
Did this really just happen? Yeah. When I looked behind me and I saw her car under my truck, I was pretty much convinced that she was going to be decapitated, that I'm like, there's no way that that person is getting out of that car alive. She did crawl out under the car without a scratch on her.
Oh my God.
And she was still texting when she got out of the car.
No, come on. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my
And her
God.
exact words to me is my brakes failed. And I'm thinking, no, your brain failed, not your brakes. I think you have the wrong word there. But I went to the hospital, and unfortunately, because everything was so swollen, they said to me, we can't take x-rays right now because you're just so swollen that we're not going to see anything visually that we need to see as clear as we should. So we want you to go home, because I was able to move. I mean, I was still moving around. I mean, I felt a little weird, but I was still able to move, thank God. And I said, yeah, okay. So they said, go home, ice, rest, and then come back to us in 48 hours and we'll take the x-rays. Then we need the swelling to go down a little bit. So fortunately, I didn't have a concussion, nothing of that sort, thank goodness. So that was good. And when I went back and they took the x-rays, it was like, and I thought, all right, well, okay, so I'll be over it in a couple of months. And I had literally just started training in MMA, not even maybe
really?
3. Yeah, it was like maybe a month into MMA. I just got my gi. Yeah, I was super excited. I was going to train to fight in the ring. I was really excited for it. And my next step after that, after training MMA, was to train to be a wrestler. So that was my plan at the time. Okay. And then this happened. And, the physical therapist said to me, he's like, listen, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, the extent of your injuries, while you may heal physically and your bones and everything may heal, he goes, your body still has to heal, and that's going to take time. Fortunately, because you were already so physically fit, you'll heal better than the average person might. Yeah. But you are still going to take time because, I already had, some aches and pains, just from training. So all that just made everything 10 times worse. So, I wound up developing from the injuries, 4 pretty big fluid-filled cysts called Tarlov cysts in my lower back. I still have them to this day. They're like the size of an egg, and there's 4 of them sitting in my back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, It's unfortunately a repercussion of the accident. My back has never been the same since then. You know, there are days where I wake up and I feel pretty good, and there's other days I wake up and I have to actually, you know, like I'm like 110, like I have to literally like fall out of bed and crawl and pick. But I'm like, you know what? It could have been so much worse. And as much as back then, you know, I had a different mindset. I was like, you know, why me? Why me? Everything was going so good. I was almost like at that top of that roller coaster peak, you know, why me? But you know what? My mom got ill right after that. And that's when my mom actually came down with the cancer. And I wound up being her full-time caretaker and took care of her right to the end until she passed. So I feel like maybe I'm a big believer that the universe always has a plan, and their plan is always bigger than the one we have for ourselves. So I said, you know what? Maybe at that time, if I had gotten started in MMA or wrestling, I would have had to quit to take care of my mom anyway.
Right.
So although a car accident is never fun, it just, I feel like it was a lesson sent to teach me, you know, to maybe kind of slow down and be a little more grateful, be a little more humble, and not to take anything for granted, because that car accident, you know, we could be having a very different conversation right now. My injuries could have been far worse. So when I was finally cleared to start doing this, you know, and I had been cleared probably about a year or so before I actually found out about the school.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah, I was, you know, I was kind of lost, because I'm like, you know, my mom's gone now. You know, I didn't, you know, do my dream career. I'm not following my dream. Like, what am I doing? And then the pandemic happened, and the you know, the career in film and TV went down the drain. So I said, you know what? Maybe it was time for that chapter and that door to close. And now the universe is opening this door back up for me to now go into the career I want. So as much as when I look back and reflect on everything, I'm very grateful for the way things panned out, because it could have been a lot different. You know, I could have suffered far greater injuries. I'm so grateful.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, I look back, and then I look to where I am today, and I say, hey, you know what? You went through that, you overcame it, and now look at where you are now. So life is highs and lows. You know, you get to that top. Sometimes you know, just like on a roller coaster, you get to the top, and also, you go down fast and you weren't expecting, but then you go back up again. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. I'm really glad to see, like, you're you're in it. You're doing what you love doing. You're the women's champion. You're wrestling. You're taking bumps, and
Oh yeah.
I'm really happy to see that.
Thank you. Thank you. I pride myself big on my performance, because like I said, I was in TV and film for so long, and to me, you know, wrestling is a performance. People come to be entertained. They don't, you know, they don't want to just see two people in the ring wrestling. You know, they want to see entertainment. They want to see the fight. They want to see the heat, you know, the arguing, the beef going on. You know, that's what makes it so much fun and then so entertaining. So, you know, for me, I pride myself a lot on the fact that when I go out there, whether it's I'm cutting a promo or I'm just talking trash to my opponent, whatever it might be, I do it like at 110%, you know, because those people that came and paid their good money to see a show, they're going to get a show. And safe to say, when I won the champion's belt, I was in West Virginia for it. They take wrestling there very, very, very seriously. It means a lot to them there. It's safe to say that I did my job, because I think they were looking to jump the guardrails and probably go after me. I kind of felt like I was MJF for a few moments. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, him and I might be good together one day, because between the two of us, we just might really make people go crazy. So yeah, so I definitely, you know, and it's like, it's so the opposite of who I am, but I'm the heel. I'm a heel through and through. I love being the bad guy on TV, and you know, it was so much fun. Yeah. They hated me. Yeah. They hated me. So despise me.
Well, see, that's good though. I mean, it's not, you know, it's never good to be hated, but I mean, but in your line of work, like, it's good to be hated, because you did your job. You did what you were supposed to do, and have the crowd hate and boo you and want to jump over the railing. And
I mean, I was doing an interview afterwards in the lobby with the rest of the people who had won, and they were yelling, you know, New York sucks, go home, Karma, get out of here. Like, they were really they were relentless. And I was like, you know, wow, so I played it up through and through. I'm holding the belt up like, I'm your champion now, bow down to me, I'm like Joffrey, kneel, from Game of Thrones, type of thing. So it was a good time. And you know what the funny thing is, though, is the next day I got so many follows on Instagram and requests on Facebook. Yeah, from people from West Virginia that came to see the show. So I'm like, you know what? Wow. Yeah, that's kind of good. I'm like, they hated me, but they're like, no, but she entertained us. So yeah. So I think I did my job.
Nice. I remember one time hearing Classy Freddie Blassie saying that he had a town hating him so much that when he went in the car, they tried turning the car over and stabbing him.
Yes. That's how you achieve the greatness of being a heel. That's the point, and yeah, that's absolutely the point.
Out of all the bouts you had so far, your matches, what do you think has been your best match so far?
Definitely the one I just recently had. I put my heart and soul into it. I laid everything on the line. So I definitely, I feel like that match was a good, I don't want to say it was my peak, because I know I have a long ways to go.
Oh, definitely,
yeah. And I don't think I ever want to peak, because I feel like if I peak, it's like, then I'm going to stop learning and I'm going to stop growing and progressing. So for me, I always want to be climbing towards that peak, but not necessarily get to that peak, at least just yet. And when I first left the Nightmare Factory, my first show that I ever debuted in on the Indies was Shine, which is an all-women's promotion based out of Port Richey, Florida. Yeah, and incredible promotion, incredible people there that run it. The roster was full of really talented women, and my opponent was great because she, knowing I just come out of the Nightmare Factory, was my first show after the Nightmare Factory debut. She helped me challenge myself to do some moves in the ring that, I was like, can I do that? And she's like, of course you can. You know the fundamentals. You know what you're doing. Of course you can. She goes, you don't have fear anymore. Remember, fear doesn't exist in your world anymore. So now it's time for you to, take those leaps of faith like you've been doing and challenge yourself. And I'm glad I did, because I felt like that match was great. Like we did moves that I keep watching certain parts of the match over and over again. And I'm like, wow, like I did a spinning DDT at one point, and it was, the crowd just like went crazy because, it was so smoothly executed. Yeah, it was great. I was happy with that. I had a show after that in Florida that was also really good. I feel like with every match I'm building layers, from the previous match. So it's like, I did well here. Now I'm taking what I learned from there and applying it to here and learning more. So I'm building layers to my career. I'm building layers to my arsenal, learning more as I go along. And, I'm not one of those people that thinks, just because I graduated from wrestling school, and I'm doing fairly well that, you'll never hear me say, oh yeah, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm a fantastic entertainer and performer, and that's where I pride myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a strong, arsenal as far as my fundamentals. I'm very crisp in the moves that I do know. I play to those strengths, and I just continue to learn, because I know once I get confident with certain moves, it just builds into other moves. Well, if you could do that, then you could do this, you could do this, you could do that. So I was very pleased with my last match. She's fearless. My opponent was as fearless as I am. So it was good.
Nice.
Yeah. So we trusted each other in the ring. We put our safety in each other's hands, and that trust has to be there, of course. And, at one point we did a spinning stunner where I hit the rope, and I jumped into her arms. She spun me around for a good 5-6 seconds. And, I laid the stunner on her, which, being in West Virginia, they love Stone Cold. So that got a huge pop. And then I didn't realize until later, I'm like, oh, because they love Stone Cold. Because of Stone Cold, yeah. I love, and, I did a bulldog in the match. She put a running bulldog on me that I never thought I could do, because I was never a fan of taking front bumps. Most people don't like them. But I took it like a champ. I took one, and when I did Shine, right off the, I took a shoulder to the turnbuckle, and then she pulled me up, and I went from the second rope completely flat into a front face bump.
Oh, wow.
And when I look back, I'm like, you okay? I'm like, yeah. Like I I was taught how to protect myself. It was fine. So I'm so grateful for all these opportunities I'm getting, because I'm so blessed. Every opportunity I'm getting is it's just helping me build my resume and building my career. And, this here it's a dream come true. I'm technically 7 months old in this industry, if you will. I'm still a baby. I'm still green. And I'm so proud, but I'm also so humble and respectful of all those who have come into this business ahead of me, because they're the reasons why I am able to learn and grow, is because of the amazing vets in this business. Even the people that wrestle in the independent promotions with me, that have put in their years and paid their dues, they kind of, they've been putting their hand out to me and help pulling me up. So I'm really grateful for that, and just so happy to continue to learn and grow.
Nice. And before you were a wrestler, you said that you used to do weightlifting, bodybuilding,
That's a bodybuilder
competitions. Like, how was that like?
It was fun. I did that for about 12 years. I was always back and forth between bikini and figure. When I first started, figure was the only category you could do other than bodybuilding. So, you had your bodybuilders, and then you had figure, which was more for, the model type women,
Okay.
not as, the muscle size wasn't as important. It was more to be more toned and lean, and symmetrically proportioned. But then they started coming out with other categories later on, like bikini, like wellness, like physique. So after a while, when they came out with all these categories, it started to get to the point where it's like, what is the judging criteria? Like, there became such a gray area, between the different judges. So it was like, I went back and forth from bikini to figure to bikini, because but here, my problem was I was always like in between. Like, I wasn't as ripped enough as I needed to be a bikini model, but I was not as muscular as I need to be a figure model. So I was always somewhere in between, and I could never kind of push myself to either one. But I did actually make the nationals in bikini at some point. I came in third, which qualified me for the nationals. So I was very happy about that. But then my coach at that point wanted me to try for figure, because I had been already training at that level so hard. He's like, hey, we're like halfway there. Why not try to step it up and now maybe challenge yourself for figure? So, I mean, if I look back, I probably would have stuck with bikini, because I was already like, halfway home, with going big places with it. But, it was good. It was a good run. I placed well in most of the competitions. There was only maybe couple of times that I didn't make the top 10, just a handful of times. And that's the name of the game. When you're in that industry, especially fitness competition industry, it's very subjective. You could have 5 judges there that, favor certain types of physiques. And then you go to a different show the next weekend, and you win first place, but you placed last in the last show. So I always tell people, because I coached women for many, many years in this industry. Yeah. And I told them, listen, do this for yourself. Do it because it's something you want to do. You're setting yourself on a personal goal. If you're doing this because your end objective is to walk out with that trophy, you're going to wind up very, very disappointed. Because if there's, 50 women up there, you have a 1 in 50 chance of making that number one spot. So so to put that kind of pressure on yourself, I think kind of takes the joy and the real meaning of preparing for a fitness competition, just takes all the joy out of it. So I tell women all the time, and of course it's hard. Everyone wants to win. No one wants to put themselves through 12 weeks of, extreme dieting and extreme working out to come in 8th, 9th, 10th. You feel very defeated, and you go, what did I do all that for? And I say, you did it for yourself, because I look back 12 weeks ago when you started, you weren't where you wanted to be. Now look at yourself. You're in the best shape of your life. That's the prize. That's the prize. Yeah, it's not the trophy. It's the fact that you did it. Most people, would find that too challenging and wouldn't be able to do it. So pride yourself on the fact that you were able to do something most people couldn't. And it was fun. It was a good run. I'm glad I'm retired from it, because I'm living my dream now. So I'm very happy for that. Yeah. And I'm grateful. I have great experiences to talk about and great memories, but it was time to move on.
And like now that you're wrestling, like you're working out and dieting and all that, like, is that almost the same as what you were doing when you were bodybuilding, or did you change up your workout and diet for wrestling?
It's pretty similar. When you're a wrestler, your cardiovascular levels have to be strong because, I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you're, people don't realize how taxing it is on your heart and lungs to be, running those ropes and doing all these movements. And, if you're doing high spots, it can take the wind out of you. So, cardiovascular training is super important. But of course, weight training is important as well because,
Yeah.
you need to be strong. You need to be able to, carry people, lift people, catch people.
Exactly.
There are
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So you have to, it's an element of balance between all three. And of course, nutrition is 75% of it. You have to be putting the right stuff in your body and eating properly. We were there at the school, we had training with our coach Ian, and he used to put us through NFL type workouts. I mean, they were no joke.
God.
They were, very, they were geared towards building a lot of solid strength. And we had a nutritionist. Yeah, we had a nutritionist that made custom meal plans for each one of us based on our goals and our current situation. And when people always used to laugh at me, because whenever I would venture into a fitness show, I would always hire a coach.
Yeah.
People go, but you are a coach. Why are you hiring a coach? And it's like, well, first of all, it's the accountability because I'm doing something very challenging and I'm trying to reach a goal. So the strongest minded of people will slip up. And if you have someone holding you accountable, the chances of you slipping up are going to be a lot less, Also with the nutrition, like I just want to focus on what I need to do. I don't want to do all the extra thinking of what I have to eat, how I should work out.
Exactly.
I want all that done for me. So it was the same with wrestling. Like we had all of that done so that we had a good foundation to prepare when we would be in the ring. Mm-hmm. We would train for 2 hours in the ring and then 2 hours in the weight room. So it was a grueling 4 days a week. Yeah, it was like we were exhausted, banged up from being in the ring. And then that's like, now 5 minutes, grab a sip of water and get in the weight room and, grab a hex bar. We're deadlifting today. It's like, oh my God. So, but since I've been home, I definitely been keeping up with my protocol of fitness and my nutrition. Yeah, I eat a very anti-inflammatory diet. I eat mostly just fruits, vegetables, chicken, seafood. I don't eat processed food. I enjoy my treats once in a while, but I keep them as treats. And, because processed food will make you feel sluggish and will just slow everything down and hinder your progress. So it's a lifestyle. It's like one of those things where you have to make the decision of, hey, can I commit to this lifestyle? Can I give it 100%? If that answer is yes, then it's the right thing for you.
Wow. And I saw on your page, like, aren't you part of a meal plan, the Mega Fit meals?
Oh, I use them pretty regularly. I'm not sponsored by them though. I'm hoping to. Yeah, I'm hoping to be one day because I mean, it would just be great to be sponsored by them because I love their products and they've customized, like there's a special tab on their page that's custom meals where you can actually, you select your protein and then you pick, how many ounces you want of it. Same with your carbs, same with your vegetables. So it's a lot of meal plan, a lot of meal plan companies, they'll have good meals to pick from and such, but they're already pre-portioned and pre-packaged. Their meals are custom made specifically to your needs. Like they do that for everybody. Yeah. So I love them for that reason. And the quality of their food has always been top notch. So I would love if they one day decided, I mean, I believe they sponsor Sasha and Sasha Banks and Roman Reigns. So I would love to join that. It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it'd be great. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I usually ask my guests this because I do a horror site too. Do you like horror films? And if you do, what are some horror films you like?
I like these films like how do I put, like The Conjuring. I'm into those type of films.
Yeah.
I like The Conjuring, Rosemary's Baby, like all those, like those types of films. I'm not into films like Saw or anything like that. I'm not big into like slasher. For some reason, stabbings and slashings kind of get to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the sound. I think it's more the sound than anything else. Like when you go to a dentist, it's not the work, it's what you're hearing.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah, I think that's it. But I love, those types of movies like The Conjuring, anything that has to do with like the paranormal and the supernaturals and those types of things. I'm a big believer in that. So I for me, I love those types of movies. You know, Amityville Horror, like all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. So I do enjoy horror films, just I guess a little bit of a different type, not the typical. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Nice. And what music do you like? Like what's currently on your playlist?
I'm a huge 80s fan. I love 80s
Nice.
music. Yep. I love
Nice.
90s. 80s and 90s would probably be my top two. But there'll be days where I have this little Bluetooth speaker in my kitchen where I'll be cooking breakfast and I'm playing like 50s pop music, like the oldies. And my husband goes, "What the heck are you listening to?" I'm like, "It's great." Because you know what? It's like, I grew up listening to that stuff because my grandmother was like, she would always like have her little radio playing when she was sewing or ironing or whatever. She always had that
Hmm.
type of music playing. And I think listening to that type of music, as weird as it may sound, just maybe takes me back to like a happy time in my childhood where like, you
Okay.
know, I was with grandma and we were always doing fun stuff. So I think for me, it's more of like a take back into a time, you know, time machine, takes me back in time to just a good time in my life. But 80s and 90s for sure is definitely my favorite genres of music.
Oh, nice, nice. I
Yeah.
love that. That's mine. That's mine too. I love
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. Love them.
And like, what are your thoughts on AEW and possibly like going into AEW Dark or Elevation or
Hmm.
Rampage? And I mean, you did train at the school for
Hmm.
AEW, so you know maybe one day they'll call you up
Hope
for one of
so.
the shows, right?
That's the goal. Yeah, hope so. I'm definitely, and that's why I'm so grateful for all these opportunities I'm receiving, because it's just allowing me to get better and to build myself and make myself a stronger, more marketable, more a better wrestler, you know, like,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm so grateful for these opportunities that I've been receiving, because it's just benefiting me in that fact that I'm able to get those reps in, challenge myself, learn more, do more, be more. And hopefully, you know, by the time I get to that stage, you know,
Yeah,
that I'll be so confident that, hey, you know, I'm stepping into this and I'm there's no doubts in my mind that I'm going to give a great performance. So
sweet, nice.
yeah, yeah.
And is there anything coming up that you want to push or plug, like any matches, title matches? Maybe you'll be doing more films or TV.
Well, I do have a show coming up at the
Oh,
same promotion, BGW, Battleground Wrestling in West Virginia on Saturday, August 21st. My opponent, Talise, will be, she's Colby's friend, so it'll be a very interesting match, to say the least. Um, I'm sure West Virginia will be welcoming me back with open
I'm
arms, so
sure. I'm
it'll be
sure.
great to see my friends from there again. And yeah, I have actually, and next Saturday, I'm skipping ahead because that's the biggest one right now. But as next Saturday in Newton, Georgia, I will be wrestling for Southeastern Wrestling (SWA) in Newton, Georgia. I'll be wrestling there as well against
Sweet.
Eliza Hayes. Yes, so I'm looking forward to that. So I have the 7th of August in Newton, Georgia. I have the 21st of August in Hurricane, West Virginia. And then November, I'm going back to Hurricane, West Virginia for another match against Colby. So that should
Nice.
be interesting. And hopefully there'll be more bookings in between. I'm sure between now and then, you know, there'll be more bookings that I'll be offered. So
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I take everything with open arms. So
And where can fans find you at? Like, what's your pages?
So on Instagram, my tag is Karma Dean with an underscore at the end. You can find me on Facebook at Karma Dean. You can find me on Twitter at Principal Karma, Principal with L-E, not A-L. And also my t-shirts are prowrestlingtees.com/Karma Dean.
Sweet. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to
Thank
doing
you.
doing the show. It was so much fun talking to you. Like I love talking about wrestling, and
Me
I mean
too.
my two favorite things is wrestling and horror. So if I can talk about one or the other, I'm happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Definitely, definitely. Thanks. All
Have a
right,
great night.
all right. You too. Have a good one.
Th- Thank you so much. All right.
Bye.
Take care.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you
Bye bye.
too. Bye.